just being really plugged in and prioritizing your community, your new board of advisors. I think that's the biggest thing because it can feel so isolating, especially when you're just starting out.
Yeah.
So know that people are cheering you on. You do have a support system and you just have to look up and over and they will be there for you.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I'm Courtney Cook, founder of Monarch COO, where I help mission-driven entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Each week, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs to explore the stories behind their successes and challenges. Whether you're just dreaming of starting a business or already building one, this podcast is here to show you that entrepreneurship is more attainable than it might seem, with insights for every stage of the journey. Shaila Ortega, co-founder of Wave, is a marketing and growth expert who has spent her career helping brands scale. Based in Kansas City, she led teams through rebrands, acquisitions, and an IPO, driving over $100 million in revenue along the way. Now she's bringing that expertise to Wave, a growth agency that helps companies break through the noise, identify their best go-to-market play, and turn marketing into a powerful growth lever. Wave specializes in GTM strategy, brand positioning, and demand generation, working with founders to scale and marketing leaders to drive impact, transformation, and team growth. Let's dive into today's conversation and see what it takes to build a business. Hi, Shaila. Will you give an intro to who you are and what you do for us?
Yeah, of course. Well, first, thank you so much for having me. So glad we found each other at the foundership events.
Yes.
So I'm Shaila Ortega. I am the co-founder and COO of Wave, and we are a marketing agency and growth collective that focuses on helping businesses establish or refine their go-to-market position for scale. And the way that we do that is really through three different lanes. One is strategic advising. Sometimes you need someone to just come in and help you understand what is working in my business, what isn't, from a marketing and go-to-market position perspective, and helping them decide where do you need to lean in, what do you need to stop doing, and how do we get you the resources and roadmap to position you for that next level of growth. The second piece is we implement that. So what are the levers that are going to work in your business as it relates to marketing and really coming in alongside you to implement and activate those channels? And then the third is, which we can maybe talk about later, is we are launching a mastermind. So our goal is to reach and support more founders and business owners to accomplish that. And being able to open up our mastermind allows more people to come in and understand systems, processes, and marketing to really make it a growth lever in your business. So we're launching that later this year.
Sweet. I can't wait to hear more about that. That's awesome. Yeah. So what inspired you to start your business? Was there something that happened? Was it a lifelong dream? Why did you start Wave?
Yeah. Well, part necessity and then part like it was just time to go out on my own. So a little bit of background. I spent 13 years in the tech space. So financial technology or SaaS as a marketing leader, really building and scaling brands. In that time, I would say the back half of that 13 years, I started stepping out and doing some consulting on the side. So building websites. My husband and I started a side agency called Middle Ground, and we did work with other people. So I started getting the itch. I'm like, okay, we could do this ourselves.
Yeah.
But had this really nice corporate job with predictable income. And then in March of 2023, was laid off. So that was the catalyst. I sat there for a couple of days and I was like, I have two options. One, I can hop back into the same cycle I've been in.
Yeah.
That was the lowest hurdle to clear, right? Just hop right back into VP of marketing. And then I said, or I could bet on myself this time. And it just so happens that I, along with 70% of the marketing team, were laid off. And one of the individuals on that team is now my co-founder. So I took the 2 days and really sat with it, which seems quick, but it was like marinating over time. And I just needed the sign to to jump. And so I called Rach, who is now my co-founder. I said, hey, I have this idea. I think that we should go out and start our own agency and plug back into the tech world, but on our own terms. And she
Yeah.
was like, yeah, let's do it. So we're 2 years in, we've built the agency, and that really was the inspiration, was seeing that we could do it ourselves. And then the catalyst to that was the layoff. So
That is amazing. And the bravery that it took to be like, nope, I'm going to do this. And it's going to be a lot harder than the alternative, which is awesome that you
yeah,
made that decision.
absolutely. And it was one of those things like choose the hard or choose my hard.
Yeah.
Because in the tech world, it is, I mean, I was burnt out, facing the same cycles. It was demanding
Mm-hmm.
in a way that no longer filled my cup. And so, yes, entrepreneurship is hard. There's
Yeah.
feast and famine cycles. Some days I'm like, what am I supposed to do today?
Yeah.
But it's definitely the right choice. Wouldn't go back, no regrets, and
Mm-hmm.
feel really proud to say that, I know that's not the story for everyone, but after getting laid off, stepping in and just betting on myself and my co-founder, and we're still going 2 years in. So
Yeah, you're still in it together too, which is really
yes.
awesome. So tactically speaking, what were the first like steps that you guys took? Like what did it look like to say, okay, we haven't, I mean, I guess you had a side business already, but how did you know what those first steps you needed to do to get clients to be a legitimate business? What was that process?
Yeah. Well, first was we wanted to get into the market as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
We both were primary providers in our family at the time and needed to get to market. So there was no sitting on an idea.
Yeah.
We took a day, I think, and whiteboarded out all the ideas. I think that's the thing.
Sweet.
As an entrepreneur, you always have a ton of ideas. So we were like, what's the, like, we say we want to be an agency, but what does that truly look like in practice?
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't over plan, we didn't overshape the services, because truly our first year was an experiment on what the market needed. But I would say we foundationally had an understanding of what we needed for our business, the partnership agreement, our tools for accounting, etc. But really, we decided what our name was going to be,
Mm-hmm.
how we were going to go to market, and then just started having conversations with people. And I would say it was 2.5 weeks from our phone call to launch. And we just put the first post out there, said,
Mm-hmm.
we're a business. We have a website to make us look a little more legitimate.
Yep.
And then just, as they say, built the ship and sailed it at the same time, because time is money, right?
Yeah.
And time is what we needed to just get going.
Well, and it's also what your expertise is. And, like that building of like, how do we go to market? How are we going to show up? How are we going to get this ball rolling? Which
Yeah.
was probably pretty fun.
Yes. Yeah. And it was like reinvigorating after spending 13 years, had so much fun building and scaling other brands, but to take our vision and turn it into a reality was so fun. And it was
Yeah.
just a really nice way to kind of close the chapter on that and start Wave.
Yep.
And I would say the biggest thing is also like we didn't get too attached to any one idea in the beginning, which I think
Nice.
was really important.
Nice. So how you started, have you evolved just your business model or how the positioning, or is that still pretty much the same today?
So it's completely changed.
Okay. Interesting.
In the best way. We went to market as a brand agency. Brand
Okay.
was what was truly our bread and butter. It was also our first couple of clients what they needed. So we were like, oh, okay, we'll like shape our services around that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say it was April of last year, we started testing out a new idea. What if we shifted to focus on being a growth agency? And by that, really lean into the strategic advising and consulting, and then more of the systems and marketing programs for scale, because
Yeah.
what we were seeing was, as a brand agency, those are very specific moments in time for a business.
Mm-hmm.
And it created this really lumpy, like client rotation. We didn't have
Yeah.
a better way to say it would be like sustainable, consistent business coming through.
Yep.
And so in April of last year, we started having conversations with people, put a revenue number out there to say, okay, if we can get this many clients or reach this revenue number by the end of the year, we'll make a pivot in the business because we've tested it. We know it's going to work for us. So long story short, we quickly secured the revenue and the clients that then became retainer clients for us with the shift. So we shifted from what you would think as a traditional brand agency into more of that strategic consulting arm for marketing for businesses. And that's where we're really seeing the more consistent growth, client retention, and honestly, the impact that we can make with clients, because we were seeing that we would create these brands and then they would ask us, okay, how do we, now what?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we didn't have the services built out for that. So we were like, well, let's test this. Like, we'll
Yeah.
build your brand and
Yep.
implement your marketing for scale, and seeing the bridge that we could build with that, the impact that we could make with our clients, and enjoying the work, like those three things, we were like, okay, let's shift the business. So in Q4 of last year, we flipped our personal branding. We completely changed our go-to-market position, and our offerings are now tailored to support what we say from startup to scale up.
Sweet.
So
That is brilliant. Like, now the longevity you have with a client, that's awesome. It just, a little shift like that probably makes a big impact. That's really cool that you guys could make that shift so quickly too.
Yeah. And I think we were able to do that because we aren't too attached to any one idea.
Yeah.
And it's all about, like, we're really big believers, Rach and I, my co-founder, in finding flow in the business. And when the branding side started to feel really forced or inconsistent, we were like, okay, what are the patterns that we're seeing that can help us create better flow in the business from an external perspective for client retention and growth, and then internally for us to feel better connected to the work and then flow in the lives that we're creating by design of owning our own business.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense, where it's, you don't want it to feel forced in any way. And then you lose or it's more disingenuous, I guess. Or it feels that way. It might, for sure.
Absolutely. That's where it can start feeling very transactional, and we're building a very relationship driven business. And so it like, that is also a reason why we're like, we need to be better connected to the work, and we have a strong desire to continue the relationship driven element of it. So absolutely.
Has there been any unexpected challenges that have come your way in these 2 years of building your business?
Ooh, such a good question. I mean, there's a couple. Some of the being a marketer first, business owner second, until starting Wave, some of the like financial pieces, right? Our biggest investment as a business has been in our CPA and bookkeeper, because Rach and I don't love spreadsheets.
Yeah.
However, I would say the most unexpected challenge, it's more of a personal piece, but shifting from the corporate space into entrepreneurship, I realized that I was living a very reactive day. Like, I would react to whatever the board needs were, what the CEO was asking for, what my team needed, being in meetings, supporting them, etc. Like, my day was built around requests or actions for others. And now, as a business owner, of course, we respond to the needs of our clients and the projects, but most days it is having to shift into that proactive mindset. What do I need to do today to provide generosity and value to the people that I know and I'm working with? who do I need to reach out to build more community? How do I need to build pipeline, et cetera? Like those things aren't set in stone.
Yeah.
There's a way you have to go out and create something out of nothing. I think that mentally was the biggest shift. It's been so long, 13 years, right? Responding to the needs of others to now being proactive in order to sustain our business. I think that was the unexpected challenge that I didn't anticipate or even know was on my radar.
Yeah, it's hard to be in the corporate world. It's so hard to get to a point where you're proactive, especially when it's a big ship, because there's just so many things that come at you that it's hard to anticipate. So it's like, I think sometimes it's like if you're 50% proactive, that's kind of a win in the corporate world.
Oh, yeah.
But in the, as an entrepreneur, you can kind of, God willing, shift how you're planning your days, how the workflow looks, to truly kind of change that narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. Which there's so much power in that. And also a little, I think imposter syndrome pops up. I'm like, wait, I should know what to do today.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, yep. Having some doubts in myself. So was there a turning point when you guys in that first year or maybe it was the first few weeks because of just like the mentality that it sounds like you both have. But was there a turning point where you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. Like we can do this.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I mean, honestly, I think it depends on the moment. Sometimes like it's all a big experiment. One day we're like really solid. We're like, we're doing this. And the next something happens and we're like, wait, is this what we're supposed to be doing? So, but I would say like at the macro level, the biggest sign was when we took a bet last April, started testing the strategic advising, and the quickness or swiftness in which we hit the revenue and client goals that we had put out there was validation that we were doing we made the right call on the shift in our business, at least for that moment in time. I think like embracing the art of the pivot is the biggest, but tactically, that was the biggest sign for us that we made a call quickly. We changed our offerings and saw immediate client increase in our clients, and all of those clients became repeat clients for us.
That is amazing. The validation, I think just your point on like, okay, this is validation, we're doing the right thing. And there's probably going to be seasons of that, like in and out. I would assume as the world changes, kind of how you're showing up in the marketplace will probably change too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why like I think another learning over time has been the difference from shifting from corporate to entrepreneurship has been the feast or famine cycle. Like we are just next month we'll be at our 2-month mark and are really hitting some of those peaks and valleys for the first time. So we're doing things like, okay, what can we do to make our clients stickier? How can we better support them, build stronger relationships? So one, they grow with us and also think of us when they are chatting with their network. And then secondary to that is, okay, we have figured out our one-to-one business, but we also have a strong desire to have more flexibility. A one-to-one consulting business requires us 90% of the time. So how do we make that practice more scalable so it's less manual effort and we can put more automation and flow in our business? And that is what prompted the mastermind. We know that we can drive more value. We can impact more businesses and support more founders, specifically female founders, and also scale our business in a one-to-many approach in addition to the one-to-one side.
Yep, that is brilliant. I can't believe how much you both have taken on and like grown and changed in just 2 years. Like to think about how far you've come, you two should be so proud. It's really amazing. You are hustling. I just love it.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Feels like a longer than 2
I'm
years.
sure. You're like, wait, this has surely been 5 years?
Yeah. But wouldn't change it. The pressures and stress that come from the feast or famine cycle is not even a flicker of what it felt like in the stress in the corporate world. Like it's a different type of endurance. And I think like the mentality when you're building it for yourself, like we know that there's risks in building, and that I think for us to, I don't want to say survive, but for us to thrive and enjoy the work that we're doing, it's really like embracing the pivot. The economy is constantly shifting. The way that clients want to work with you and the buying journey is constantly shifting. So the constant evolution, one, we're both builders, so we love that. We don't want to find like any like complacency in the business, but it's also allowed us the freedom to flex the business based on what the market's saying and also what we need as business owners.
Yep. Yeah, that is
So,
great. So, did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or has this come to you as a surprise in any way? Or I guess, and also your co-founder Rachel, for both of you.
yeah. So, Rach, entrepreneurship is in her blood.
Yeah.
Her family had their own business. She, prior to being in the tech world, had her own consulting. So she, like,
Oh,
it's
wow.
in
Hmm.
her blood. I, I've always been a builder, even in childhood. Like I would dream up big things. I would create my own, like, I was a very creative kid, so I would create my own plays or
Oh,
dance
cool.
routines
Yep.
and then like make my friends do that, or I would have like the lemonade stand. Like I always
Yep.
was doing something to stay busy. My parents dipped their toes in entrepreneurship for a little bit, but then shifted back into the corporate world. So I saw elements of it, but it wasn't really something that was right in front of me.
Hmm.
Um, but when I saw myself in the corporate world, I was constantly building either a helping build a new channel for the business or a new go to market or establishing a product launch. There were all these things that had entrepreneurship like elements to it, but I was in an organization. And then sometimes I would have a thought like, well, I could do this better by myself.
Yeah. If I don't have
um,
these strings holding me back, I could just like take it and run.
Yeah. So it was never directly in front of me. I think it was like a subconscious piece until I started doing the contracting work on the side
Yeah.
for myself. And then seeing that, I I don't know if it was doubt or lack of awareness, but it removed that. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, by the time, uh, when was it? In 2023, I said that was the year I was going to start the business
Yeah.
for myself. Um, Happened quicker than I thought because I was laid off, but like best thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't right in front of me. I think it's in my DNA. I just didn't honor it. And now I am. And while it can be challenging some days, I would not change it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
for people who like maybe are interested in a career path of kind of where you've ended up, how like what were the steps in your career that you took to get those like VP of marketing roles at these larger organizations that really like probably did so much for your experience? Like what did that look like over your career?
Ooh, I love this question. Is I think that so much of what I learned is why we've been able to build the business that we have. So
Hmm.
while I don't want to go back to corporate world,
Yeah.
I have like nothing but gratitude for the experience. So I would say a couple of things. One, I started out as a marketing coordinator and then rose through the ranks, so to speak, over time. And in that time, in each role that I had, I was always looking for ways to um, implement something new, to test. Like I wasn't afraid to step out of the box and try something new or present new ideas. I think being really proactive in that capacity is what has helped me over time jump into the different roles. Because just because marketing was my lane, there were so
Yeah.
many opportunities to step into. And I think that's how I made the pivot from individual contributor to
Mhm.
leader, was being able to say, hey, I see this opportunity in the business. This is what I would recommend. Can I test it?
Yeah.
And companies typically love that. um, and also on the same side of that, I always advocated for myself. So I was
Nice.
taking on more work. And if I took on more responsibility with that work, I was always the first one to make sure that, hey, let's discuss my role.
Yeah.
Let's discuss what my salary looks like because I'm making an impact in this way. So I would
Mhm.
say being really hungry and also being your biggest advocate are the two things that really helped me in my career journey, and not being afraid to fail, because I did so many things where I didn't know I was doing it for the first time, but it helped me understand the different parts of the business. Um, and then the third piece, or maybe it's fourth because I'm rambling per usual,
No.
is like build really solid relationships with the people in the organization. So, um, especially in marketing, if marketing is your career path, there isn't another role outside of operations, actually. So, operations and marketing are the two roles that touch pretty much every point
Mhm.
of the customer journey in some capacity. So, getting really curious and having good conversations with people across the organization to understand how they impact the client experience, how they impact the go to market, it'll make you a really well-rounded marketer and allow you to understand, okay, we can make this impact to bring in new leads. And this is the impact that we can have on the whole client experience. And that'll help you truly understand the business at large. So I think one, being really hungry, two, advocating for yourself, and then three, building those relationships give you a like 360 view of a
Yeah.
business. And also, that is what helped me step into entrepreneurship and say, oh, okay, like these are the things to do for us to create a really ideal client experience, because I had really good friends in operations. I saw how
Yeah.
they did things,
Yep.
from a like how to sell and how to pitch. I was consistently stepping into the boardroom or helping the CEO prep for investment conversations because I stepped up and asked
Yeah.
to support those things. So I would say, like, don't be afraid to step outside
Mhm.
and bet on yourself.
Yeah, that is great advice. Like, I cannot say enough about when I see people early in their career and they're not like pulling their head up and seeing, okay, what is this outside of what I'm doing as an individual contributor? Like,
Yeah.
there is so much more to continue to say, okay, but here's what I'm doing on a day to day. But how does that impact everything else around you? And you're
Yeah.
making those connections with operations or IT or supply chain or marketing. And now you have friends around the business to ask favors for too, or from,
Yes.
and say, hey, I need help with this. And I think you might have some experience. And like, it generally is like, comes back to you and, fourfold of like, yeah, let me help you. And it just makes
Yeah.
things better.
Yeah. And people love to share what they're passionate about.
Yep.
So you're also building really strong connections that if you do take the leap from corporate to entrepreneurship, to your
Mm-hmm.
point, fourfold, a lot of our initial business and even now has come from the relationships that I built in
Yes.
the corporate space. Not necessarily like the marketing individuals, those have come. So shout out to you guys for thinking of us, but also like the sales team, the ops team, a
Yes.
lot of the connections that we made saw the value, and now we're top of mind as
Yep.
a business. So it comes back full circle in different ways.
Yep. Always. It really does. Relationships matter. I had a professor who's a good friend, I would say, and he's always been a
Yeah.
mentor to me. And he just harps on how important relationships are. And
Oh my
he should,
gosh.
as he should harp on it, because it's
Yeah,
critical. So,
absolutely.
what are some of your goals for 2025? I know we're already in almost, through, or we're getting into the first quarter. We're almost through it.
Yeah.
But what are some of your goals?
Ooh, okay. So one specific is we are launching the mastermind this year. So to support more founders, we'll be launching a mastermind called the Scale Up.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I
super
love that
excited about
name.
that. Yeah. Second is, so I am actually about to have, well, we have a few more months, but going to have my first child this year. So
Congrats.
thanks. With that, making sure that we're building a business with flow that allows me to step into maternity leave,
Yeah.
for my co-founder to feel really peaceful and successful in taking things on when I'm out, and then
Yeah.
being able to step back in. So, like, what is the flow? What are the systems and processes that we need to create? And what are the resources? And third, I think just having fun. We have been really intentional about shifting out of a mindset of growth at all costs into sustainable growth.
Yeah.
So how are we doing that? Is it the mastermind? We're limiting the number of clients we take this year. So finding more flow and quality over quantity
Yep.
is a huge thing. And then operationally, a big goal for us is to reduce overhead. So
Okay.
that was a learning, but I would say those are really our three big goals for the year.
Those sound like great goals. And I'm excited for you to have your first baby. It is literally the best thing ever to become a mom. There's truly nothing better.
Yeah.
There's just nothing better. So I'm excited for you.
Yes, that's what I
So
hear.
that being said, I'm curious, and you're probably thinking about this in different ways now, but how do you balance the demands of running a business with your personal life? And now you're
Yeah.
about to become a mom. So what's that looking like for you right now?
Yeah, such a great question. It's something I've been really intentional about, um, figuring it out all of the time. But the way tactically that I do that is each month I plan life first and then business second, because um, stepping from the corporate world into this world, it was really big and loud all the time.
Yeah.
So for to find that flow, it's really that schedule life first and then business second. And each week and each month can look different, but it allows me to make sure that I'm tuning in and nurturing the relationships with the people that support me outside of the business, my husband,
Yeah.
our family, etc. And also allows me to be on and in tune when we're with clients. So I think the other piece of that is in the work, creating really healthy boundaries and guidelines with clients has been crucial in a one-to-one business where we're service-based. Establishing really strong relationships and boundaries has helped us be able to create, I wouldn't say lines, right? Everything kind of like when you're an entrepreneur kind of blurs together, but it allows us to be intentional when we need to be in the business. And then when like Rach needs to hop out to go pick up her daughter from school, she can easily do that. And then for myself, thinking future state, when have maternity leave or when I need to go pick up our sweet girl from school in the future, it's really just building the business around whatever schedule is conducive to the things that matter outside of the business, which is family, being a good partner, sister, daughter, mother, those things.
That's great advice. And I'm going to take that and use that too. Not that I'm terrible at it, but I could always use work. And just, I think that's an easy one to just think of like, okay, personal life first and business next. I think that's a really just digestible way to think about it. So what's been the most rewarding part of your entrepreneurial journey?
Ooh. Oh, I think betting on myself and seeing it pay off.
Yeah.
Also, being able to create a life that feels really in flow and flexible versus forced, felt very forced in the corporate world, because I just did some of it by nature. It was my fault, right? Not creating the right boundaries in that space. But now I would say like betting on myself. And second, like having like time and flexibility and freedom, and also being like shifting my version of success from like a financial piece to having time.
Yeah. Yep. That makes so much sense. I love it. So the last question for everyone that I love to ask is, what's one thing you wish you knew when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, goodness. What is one thing? It's going to be hard. The feast or famine cycle, I think, was the biggest, but it's the community that you surround yourself with that makes the biggest impact, that you can celebrate with, that you can go to if you're having a day, a month, a quarter that feels really off. Just being really plugged in and prioritizing your community, your new board of advisors. I think that's the biggest thing, because it can feel so isolating, especially when you're just starting out. So know that people are cheering you on. You do have a support system, and you just have to look up and over, and they will be there for you.
Yeah, totally. I love it.
Yeah.
So if people want to reach out and work with Wave or connect with you, Shaila, how can they find you?
Yeah. I would say 2 ways. One, LinkedIn is a great place. I'm on there personally, and then Wave is on there. And then our website is letsmakewaves.co. And then third, so we also have a podcast. Would love to have you join.
Yes, I would love to be on it.
Yes. And it's called Founders Table Talk, where we bring in other entrepreneurs, and we just talk about the journey of scaling your business, what it takes, from both the personal side and the business side. So those would be the 3 ways. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Shaila, for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've just loved learning about your background. You are such a hustler, and I'm such a fan now. Like, this is not that I wasn't before, but like, gosh, the appreciation for what you've built is really amazing. Both you and Rach, it's amazing.
Thank you. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to do this. I can't wait to have you on our podcast. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I hope you found inspiration and insights to fuel your entrepreneurial journey. If you're looking for support in building or scaling your business profitably, visit my website or send me an email to learn more about how I help mission-driven businesses become more profitable, proactive, and efficient. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps other entrepreneurs discover the show, and it would mean so much to me as well. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep going.